But today I'm wearing my other hat as co-curator of this exhibition, Behind the Lines, the Art of Texas Monthly. And I want to recognize and thank my fellow curators, the multi-talented archivist Susanna Broyles, photo curator Carla Eller. Anyone who knows these women can appreciate what a joy it was to work with them on this. And they're simply amazing, as you all know, I'm sure. So putting the exhibit together really has been a labor of love for all of us. Susanna and I have been immersed in the Texas Monthly Archive for the past couple of years, going through boxes of art department files and uncovering photographs and original illustrations that likely haven't been seen since they were published in the 70s or 80s. Wow. Susanna can probably tell you how many photos she unearthed. I know that for the illustrations, there were over 1,000 pieces of art. And choosing among them for this gallery was incredibly hard, but all of them are available in the archive for students, scholars, or anyone who's interested to view. The archival files of Texas Monthly's art department end around the late 80s, so for the illustrations, we're limited by that. And you'll notice that on the walls. But for photography, thanks to Carla's curatorial work over the years and the Wittliff's collecting mission that aligns so well with Texas Monthly's art direction, we realized that we already had an incredible representation of some of the best photography that the magazine has published over the decades. And then Carla worked diligently to fill in some of the gaps we had, identifying photographers, helping to round out the show, but also bringing in these amazing photographic works into the Wittliff's permanent collection. So we really hope you enjoy the exhibit as much as we've enjoyed putting it together. We wanted to celebrate Texas Monthly's 50th anniversary with a look at the way the magazine's art department has helped to shape the way we see Texas and Texans. And it would be impossible to acknowledge everyone who has worked in the art department over 50 years. But there are a few we would like to express appreciation to who were instrumental in setting a really high bar in those early years of the magazine. So Sybil Newman Broyles, who I believe is here today. Sybil and Jim Darlick, who passed away in 2021, helmed the art department during its first decade, succeeded by Fred Woodward and then DJ Stout, who we will hear from in a few minutes. And you can still see their influence on the magazine today. And as you look through the masthead of Texas Monthly, which we did repeatedly through the first decades, there are several names that repeat issue after issue. And I believe some of them are here today. Kathy Marcus, Nancy McMillan, and Hope Rodriguez. I know there are so many more years to Texas Monthly than the magazine has been in existence. And if you look at some of the table cases in the exhibit, you'll see some of their working documents, files, and tools of the trade from the archive. So, and then, last but certainly no way least, I know that we have a number of photographers and illustrators here today with us whose work are in the show. Can I get a raise of hand if you're one of the photographers in the show or an illustrator? And their time with Texas Monthly or anything else you might want to, I think we're here to chat. So now it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to Greg Curtis and DJ Stout. Greg was editor of Texas Monthly from 1981 to 2000. He is currently, to date, the longest serving editor of the magazine. To 99-2000, depending, during which time he received global recognition for his work with the magazine, and continues, of course. During their collective 10 years, Texas Monthly was awarded the National Magazine Award 5 times, a testament to their and everyone at Texas Monthly's hard work. So, great.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's great to see so many familiar faces and former colleagues who have come to this. It's really a wonderful feeling, and thank you to the Wittliff Collection for putting this exhibit together. I think it's really, really good, and it was a real pleasure to just slowly walk through it this afternoon. In thinking about this, I've thought, well, what is a magazine actually? And what a magazine is it's a means of communication. And a magazine communicates in two ways, with words and with images. And the images and the words have to belong in the same magazine. Also, magazine has to be recognizable as itself. And in order to do that, there has to be a kind of basic architecture of the magazine that is familiar from issue to issue. And that at Texas Monthly, that basic architecture was built by Sybil Broyles, who is here, who's been recognized there, Jim Darlick, and by Bill Broyles. And they put together the architecture of the magazine, the division of the stories, the typefaces, so on and so forth. And it was such a solid foundation that they created that it endures to this day. It might be that an element has been moved over time, like the restaurant listings came at the end for a while, and then they came at the beginning for a while, and so on. But that isn't a fundamental change. That's just changing, deck chairs or something. The basic solid structure of the magazine that they created maintains today. Because of this exhibition, we might talk a little bit. The classic source of friction on a magazine is between the editor and the art director. The editor wants as many words as possible. The art director wants as many images as possible. And these two desires are irreconcilable. For one to get more, the other has to get less. And thus, there are many heated discussions, typically, between an editor and an art director. But I have to say, DJ and I worked together for 13 years. And there were some words from time to time, but not very many. And the reason was that the magazine that I wanted was the same magazine as DJ wanted. We both had the same aesthetic. We both had the same attitude toward journalism. We both liked simplicity. We both liked things appearing straightforward. And since our goals were so aligned, then the little stuff, should we use this photo or that photo? You might talk about that for a while, but that's the little stuff. That's day to day. The big questions have already been answered, and they were answered. When I left Texas Monthly in 2000, I had been editor for 19 years, and at the time that I left, I said I just didn't have another Willie Nelson cover left in me. Which was true then and true now. But the fact is that there would come a time when there should be another Willie Nelson cover on Texas Monthly. And I could see that, and I just wasn't the one to do it. So I began to think about moving on, and DJ came to me, and he told me that he was resigning, he was joining Pentagram, an international association of designers where he still works today. And so, sad day for me and for all of us, but DJ did. And now I was left with trying to find another art director. And I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to make the search. I didn't want to interview the candidates. I didn't want to start a whole new working relation with an art director after I'd had 13 years of such a good relation with DJ. So, and I don't know if DJ that you know that your leaving prompted my leaving. So that was the real big force that made me leave in 2000. So I have thought, and in fact I lay in bed awake last night trying to think of a grand conclusion. And I have failed. I have said what I have to say about this, and I hope it makes sense.
Wow, that was great. Thank you, Frank. I didn't know I had such a effect on you that you would leave the magazine at the same time. That's awesome. But anyway, I'm very honored to have been asked to speak at this event. Behind the Lines, the Art of Texas Monthly. And first of all, I just wanted to say it's great to see Sally Wittliff here and Reed, and this place is very special to me because I've come here a lot over the years, and Bill was a real mentor of mine, and I designed a lot of books for him over the years, and including the one that is the exhibition over here, the Keith Carter exhibition. I haven't seen the book yet, but all the photographs are in a new book that's being published by UT Press. And so anyway, it's a real honor to be here at the Wittliff. I also wanted to once again point out that when I was the art director for 13 years, I didn't do it alone. And they've already been pointed out, but Nancy McMillan, right there. When I joined in I actually moved here in 1986. I didn't know my ass from a hole in the wall when it came to the magazines. As a matter of fact, I had never designed a magazine before. I had worked in Dallas for about 7 or 8 years, doing annual reports and things like that. But I really relied on Nancy and Kathy Marcus. Is Kathy here? I don't think she's here. Kathy Marcus was, I think her title was, what was her title? Assistant art director. And what Kathy did was she did all the design of the front of the book, which was sort of what we call templated areas, like departments and stuff in the back. But we didn't have a photo editor back in those days. And so she would do a lot of the coordinating of photography shoots, and also she would help us find photographers and whatnot. Nancy really was sort of the technical arm of the art department because when I first started, we didn't have computers, and so we would do paste ups. And so we would have to order the type, and you would send it over to we had a typesetting department in the art department, in the office. You had to do that correctly. Then the type would come back, you had to cut it out, then you had to run it through a waxer. And so I was terrible at mechanical stuff. So I would start to do one board, one layout of a spread. Nancy would do 10 of them in the same amount of time. She had this mind where she could order the type, she'd cut it all out, run it through the thing, lay out the boards, you could hear her slapping them down, you know, after she put the wax on there, and then we'd come over and look at me, and I'd still be trying to line up one little headline. So luckily I was good at conceptual things. And then also there was Hope Rodriguez, who worked at the art department for a very long time. She's not here, is she?
No, she was there long before.
Yeah, and Hope was our office coordinator. And so she kind of took care of things in the office, but also she was a production artist. She was very good at the production as well. I've remained friends with my art. It was the world's best art department, the smallest art department. I've remained friends with them over the years. We get together at every holiday, and all I do is, they buy each other presents, like for Christmas. All I do is buy dinner. Anyway, so, but also that was the world's greatest art department, and a lot of the photography in particular in this exhibition was when we were doing the art department. But also, as Greg said, he kind of stole my thunder. He was a fantastic editor to work with. He was very open to my ideas. I really wanted to push the magazine as far as art direction goes. Fred Woodward, who I think is still my hero, is one of the best editorial art directors in the world, was the art director for me. He sort of set the stage, so I had to fit into some really big boots. And I wanted to continue to put Texas Monthly on the map as far as art direction and design. And Greg allowed me to do that. You know, we would, like he said, you know, we would have very good discussions sometimes. But he also, you know, but he would let, you know, if I made the case to him, he would let me do it. One time I hired Mary Ellen Mark, a very famous photographer who had an exhibition here, actually, in this room. She passed away several years ago. But I hired her to do a photo shoot about the Texas rodeo. And she worked on it for 3 months or something like that. And I completely blew my budget on that whole thing. So I went to Greg and I said, I would really like this many pages for this. And he was wary about that because it was going to be the most pages we've ever devoted to photography, basically. But he let me do it. And it was, you know, it was an award-winning piece. And Greg understood sort of the value of having good photography, good illustration, good art in the magazine. So there's, I'm getting there. So I just have one more point here. So since I left Texas Monthly in basically 2000 is when I joined Pentagram, and I'm still a partner with Pentagram. Pentagram turned 50 this year as well as Texas Monthly, so all the great stuff happened like 50 years ago. Pentagram was founded in London by 5 designers. But for the last 23 years, I'm a graphic designer. I do a whole variety of different kinds of projects. But one of the main things I still do are magazines. We do maybe 15 or 20 print magazines right now. Mostly in the higher education space, because I work with universities all over the country, all over the world, and they still really understand the value of a print publication because it cuts through the clutter, you know, to their audience. So I've become a magazine consultant, and one of the things that I tell a magazine, there's 2 main things that I tell them. And I work with editors all over the place, all these different editors, these different magazines, including World Wildlife magazine. And I always tell them that what I learned from Texas Monthly is, well, Texas Monthly was really great because it had a sense of place. Sure, it's a regional magazine and it's about Texas, but what it did was it looked at what was going on in the world in an intelligent way, but it looked at it through the lens of Texas. So an example of that is I did a cover of Ann Richards on a motorcycle.
Yes, love that one.
It's not a real photograph. But it shows the power of visual communication. Because that cover, this is way before Photoshop, it came about because, you know, I read the story. The story was a great story by Jan Jarbo. But, you know, but I had seen recently that Ann Richards was given a Harley Davidson motorcycle as a gift, because she said she wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle. And so it just, all of a sudden I was like, oh, we got to put Ann Richards on the motorcycle. And so what that is what I call the Texas, what we used to refer to as the Texas myth, which is, I could have done something very literal on the cover. It could have been a photograph, just a straightforward photograph of Ann as the governor. But I wanted to capture that Texas thing. I wanted to do that thing, what we call the myth. And, you know, riding motorcycles isn't necessarily Texas, but the attitude of a female, sassy governor riding a motorcycle, that is purely Texas. And that's what I tried to do in the magazine. And that cover, you know, whether you read the story or not, it said a lot. So the other thing that I always tell my clients is and Greg referred to this as well, there's two kinds of communication in a magazine. If you have a publication and it's all text, that's great, that's a book. If you have a publication that is all graphic design or all imagery, that's great too, that's a picture book. A magazine is a combination of what I call the two V's. It's visual communication and verbal. And when one just copies the other, that's not a good magazine. In other words, I could have put just a picture of Ann Richards on that would have been a literal communication. But I took it a bit further and tried to communicate what Ann Richards was about, but also what is Texas about. And that's why I think now, you know, Texas Monthly is still seen, sort of recognized. It's a regional magazine, but it's recognized around the world as still one of the best magazines ever, you know, and the reason why it's such a good magazine is, of course, it has great writing, and it has great readers, but also the writing communicates in a really great verbal way. It has really great writing, but it also has really great visuals, and they work parallel. They don't just repeat what one another is saying, and I think that's been the strength of Texas Monthly, and it's why I'm so proud to be a part of Texas Monthly. And anytime I ever tell anybody, you know, hey, I'm a partner with Pentagram, which is a very famous international design firm, most people in Texas don't give a shit, but if I say I work at Texas Monthly, then they're